All right, UPSC aspirants, ready for a deep dive. Today we're taking a look at India's river dolphins.
Fascinating creatures, aren't they?
Absolutely, those incredible creatures that navigate by sound, in the depths of our rivers.
It really is remarkable how they've adapted, isn't it? And you know what? India just finished its first ever comprehensive survey of these guys.
Exactly. So think of this deep dive as your cheat sheet to the key findings, what it all means for your UPSC exams, and what it tells us about the environmental challenges India faces. We'll be looking closely at a recent report on this survey, so let's jump right in. First things first, introductions are in order. We've got the Gangetic dolphin and the much rarer Indus River dolphin.
And remember, these aren't the kind of dolphins you see out in the ocean. These guys are built for rivers, so their eyesight isn't the best.
Makes sense.
Right, so to make up for that, they've developed incredible echolocation. They send out these clicks and interpret the echoes that bounce back.
It's like having a built-in sonar.
It is essential for navigating those murky depths.
That's pretty cool. So what did this groundbreaking survey find?
Well, over 6,300 Gangetic dolphins were found across several river systems, mostly concentrated in the Ganga and Brahmaputra basins.
Sounds like a good number.
It is, but the story's different for the Indus River dolphin. They only found 3 of them.
3?
Yeah, all in the Beas River in Punjab. That's a pretty alarming discovery.
That is a huge difference. Why is there such a gap between the two species? I think this is where it gets really interesting for the UPSC folks out there.
It really does. That difference really highlights the impact of things like habitat availability and conservation efforts.
So it's more than just pollution then?
Exactly. You've got to think about things like the Beas River. It's been affected by dam construction and water diversion, which really hurts the habitat for the dolphins.
So we're talking about a whole web of issues.
We are. And the survey gives us a look into this complexity. It's kind of like a dolphin's eye view, showing which areas are thriving and which are struggling. It points out what we call hotspots, places with a lot of dolphins, and cold spots where there are barely any.
Okay, I'm following.
So, for example, there's a stretch of the Ganga between Manahari in Bihar and Rajmahal in Jharkhand. They recorded a density of over 2.7 dolphins per kilometer there.
Wow. What makes that area so special for them?
Well, a few things probably contribute. The area has deeper channels, providing better habitat, more prey, probably, fewer disturbances compared to other parts of the river.
So then what about those areas of the Ganga that are practically empty of dolphins? Why are those areas like that? What does that say about how healthy the river is overall? It seems like this ties into what's on the UPSC syllabus.
Right. This is where we get into carrying capacity and habitat suitability, those key themes in ecology and environmental geography. It's as if the river's trying to send us a message. Those cold spots are often filled with pollution, the habitat's all broken up, there's too much fishing going on. All these things make it tough for dolphins to live there. By looking at where the dolphins are, you can get a better understanding of the health of the river and the challenges it faces.
Makes sense.
And here's something to keep in mind, especially for those prepping for the UPSC.
I'm listening.
This survey wasn't just about counting dolphins, it also shows how tough it is to do research in difficult environments.
Yeah, you're not exactly observing animals in a zoo here.
Right, these dolphins live in murky waters, only coming up for air for a few seconds at a time.
Yeah, that's got to be difficult.
The report actually goes into the challenges the researchers had when trying to estimate how many dolphins there were. They had to use a combination of visual surveys, where they actually searched for dolphins, and acoustic surveys, where they used underwater microphones to hear the clicks we talked about earlier.
So even with the technology, it's still tough.
It is, like trying to find shadows in a forest.
I can see that.
And that's why this data is so important. It shows us where we stand now, but it also shows us how important it is to keep monitoring them so we can see how the population changes and change our conservation efforts to match.
I get it. So let's zoom out a bit and think about what these hotspots and cold spots tell us about the bigger picture. It's not just about dolphins, is it? It's about the health of the entire river system.
You're right on the money there. Remember those cold spots we talked about? The ones with almost no dolphins? Those areas are under a lot of ecological pressure. Pollution, runoff from industry, bad farming practices, deforestation, all of those things hurt the river's ability to support life.
It's like a domino effect, isn't it? One problem leads to another, and the whole ecosystem suffers.
It is. And this is a perfect example for you UPSC folks of how connected environmental issues are. You can't just look at saving dolphins on their own. It's all tied in with managing water resources, controlling pollution, making agriculture more sustainable, even climate change.
It's a good reminder that there are rarely easy answers when it comes to environmental problems.
You're right, they require a holistic approach. And it gets even more complex because the survey found several cold spots located between barrages, those structures built across rivers to manage how the water flows.
Okay, that could be a problem.
It could be. It shows that even though these barrages are important for things like irrigation, they might be breaking up dolphin habitats and stopping them from moving around freely.
So we have this classic dilemma.
Mm.
How do we balance the needs of development with protecting the environment? I feel like that's a question you could see on the UPSC exams. And this survey gives us a real-world example to analyze these complicated trade-offs.
It does. It's not about being against development. It's about finding ways to develop sustainably, minimizing the impact on the environment.
Right, that makes sense.
And another interesting thing, the survey found a good number of dolphins in some of the Ganga's tributaries, like the Ganga, Gangetic, and Kosi rivers.
Really? What do you make of that?
Well, it could mean those tributaries have better conditions for them. Maybe the water quality is better there, or there are fewer disturbances, or more food available. It shows how important it is to protect those tributaries. They play a big part in keeping the whole ecosystem healthy.
So we're putting together a pretty complex puzzle here. Each bit of data from the survey helps us see the bigger picture.
Exactly. We need more research to understand things like dolphin behavior, how they use their habitat, and how different threats affect them. This information is critical for making effective conservation strategies and making sure these dolphins survive.
And that's where you come in, the future policymakers and administrators. You'll be the ones deciding India's path of development. Understanding these environmental details will be key for making good decisions.
For sure. It's not just policymakers, though. We all have a role to play in protecting these amazing creatures and the ecosystems they need to survive.
Well said. This deep dive has been really insightful. We've learned about how environmental issues are connected and the complexities of conservation. But we're not done yet. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of India's river dolphins.
We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we? Exploring the survey findings and what they mean for the health of our rivers and how all this ties into your UPSC preparation.
We have. But let's shift gears and talk about the future. What does all of this mean for these dolphins and the ecosystems they live in going forward?
That's the big question, isn't it? The survey gives us this intricate picture with healthy populations in some places, struggling ones in others, and so much we still don't know.
It's like we have a few puzzle pieces, but we're missing a lot of the picture.
Exactly. It's a vital starting point, but it raises new questions that need answers. For example, how is climate change going to affect dolphin habitats? What about those dams and barrages? What will their long-term impact on river connectivity be? And how do we balance conservation with the need for development?
Those are some big questions, and they touch upon so many things relevant to the UPSC syllabus. Environmental sustainability, protecting biodiversity, managing water resources, even interstate relations when you think about those shared river systems.
Exactly. This is what makes this deep dive so important for you UPSC aspirants. It's not just memorizing facts about dolphins, it's about understanding how these complex issues affect India's environment. This survey is a real-world example you can use in your essays, discussions, even your future careers as you tackle these challenges.
So how do we go from just knowing about this to actually doing something? What can we do, both as individuals and together, to protect these dolphins and the ecosystems they represent?
Well, the report suggests a multifaceted approach. The first thing is strengthening legal protections and making sure they are actually enforced. It's good that these dolphins have legal protection, but those laws are only as effective as their enforcement.
Right, it's like having a speed limit, but no one to stop people from speeding.
Exactly. And we need to encourage responsible fishing practices that minimize bycatch, when dolphins get accidentally caught in nets. We also need to reduce the habitat damage caused by some fishing methods.
And what about habitat restoration, particularly in those cold spot areas where the dolphin populations are struggling?
Absolutely. Habitat restoration is crucial. It's like creating safe havens for these dolphins, giving them the resources they need to thrive. We also need to get the local communities involved. The report really emphasizes this, involving the people living closest to the rivers in these efforts. They know the rivers best and can be really strong advocates for their protection.
It's about empowering those communities to take care of their own rivers, finding solutions that help both people and wildlife.
Precisely. Conservation can't be forced upon people. It needs to be a collaborative effort, considering everyone's needs and perspectives. That's how you create solutions that last.
And that leads us to this critical point: sustainable development, finding ways to meet our needs without harming the health of our ecosystems.
You got it. That's what the survey really highlights, how everything is connected. Healthy rivers mean healthy dolphin populations, which in turn contribute to healthy ecosystems that give us clean water, fertile land, and countless other benefits. It's a cycle we need to protect and nurture.
So for our UPSC aspirants, the key takeaway is to think holistically. Connect the dots between seemingly separate issues. Remember that environmental challenges aren't just scientific or technical problems. They're human problems, requiring creative solutions, a deep understanding of social and economic factors, and a commitment to sustainable practices.
Well said. The future of India's river dolphins, in fact, the future of our planet, depends on us making wise choices today.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener into the world of India's river dolphins. We've looked at their unique adaptations, the threats they face, and what it all means for India's environment and development. We hope this episode has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to think about how you can contribute to building a more sustainable future.
As always, we encourage you to dive deeper into this topic. Check out the source material, DTE and IE, for more detailed information.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your fellow UPSC aspirants and anyone interested in the fascinating world of India's river dolphins. If you have any questions or want to explore specific parts further, leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
Welcome back to our deep dive into India's river dolphins. We've explored these incredible findings from the survey and what they mean for our rivers, not to mention those important links to your UPSC studies.
And of course, now it's time to look ahead.
Right, this survey isn't just about looking back, it's about looking forward.
Exactly.
What does this mean for the future of India's river dolphins and the ecosystems they call home?
That's what we need to consider. The survey paints a bit of a mixed picture, don't you think?
It does.
There are these healthy populations in some areas, while others are having a really hard time, and there are still a lot of unanswered questions.
It really does feel like we've only just started to put the puzzle together.
It's a good way to put it. This survey is an essential first step, but it raises a ton of new questions that we need to answer.
Like what?
Well, like, how will climate change affect where dolphins can live? And what about the long-term effects of dams and barrages on how connected the river is? And how can we actually integrate conservation with development, make them work together?
Those are some pretty big questions, and they touch upon so many themes that are relevant to the UPSC syllabus. We're talking about things like environmental sustainability, biodiversity conservation, water resource management, even interstate relations when we consider those shared river systems.
Precisely. And that's why this deep dive is so valuable for you as UPSC aspirants. It's not just about remembering facts about dolphins. It's about understanding these complex connections that are shaping India's environment. You can use this survey. It's a real-world case study. You can use it in your essays, your discussions, even in your future careers as you work to solve these challenges.
So how do we move from simply being aware of the problem to actually taking action? What can we do individually and collectively to make sure these dolphins and the ecosystems they represent are protected?
The report suggests a multi-pronged approach. First and foremost, we need to strengthen legal protections and ensure they are being enforced. It's great that these dolphins are protected by law, but laws are only as good as their enforcement.
Right. It's like having a speed limit but no one to enforce it.
Exactly. We also need to promote responsible fishing practices, practices that minimize bycatch, when dolphins are accidentally caught in fishing nets, and reduce the habitat damage caused by certain fishing methods.
And of course, we can't forget about habitat restoration, especially in those cold spot areas where dolphin populations are declining.
Habitat restoration is crucial, absolutely. Think of it as creating these safe spaces for dolphins, giving them what they need to thrive. And we can't overlook the importance of involving the community, the people who live closest to the rivers, in these conservation efforts.
They're the ones who know the rivers best, right?
They are, and they can be incredibly powerful advocates for protecting them.
It's about empowering those communities to become stewards of their own rivers.
Exactly, and working together to find solutions that benefit both people and wildlife.
Which brings us to a really important point: sustainable development.
Yeah, right.
We need to find ways to meet human needs without jeopardizing the health of our ecosystems.
It's about changing the way we think, recognizing that our well-being is tied to the well-being of the environment.
You're exactly right. This survey really drives home that point, that everything is interconnected. Healthy rivers support healthy dolphin populations, and those healthy populations contribute to healthy ecosystems. And those ecosystems provide us with clean water, fertile land, and countless other benefits. It's a cycle that we need to protect and nurture. So for you, as UPSC aspirants, the key takeaway is this. Think holistically. Connect the dots between seemingly separate issues. And remember that environmental challenges aren't just scientific or technical problems, they're fundamentally human challenges. They require us to come up with innovative solutions, to deeply understand social and economic factors, and to commit to sustainable practices.
Very well said. The future of India's river dolphins, in fact, the future of our planet, depends on the choices we make today.
This deep dive has been a truly eye-opening journey into the world of India's river dolphins. We've explored how they've adapted, the threats they're up against, and the bigger picture of what it means for India's environment and development. Hopefully this episode has sparked your curiosity, gotten you thinking, and inspired you to think about the role you can play in creating a more sustainable future.
We always encourage you to learn more, so check out the source material, DTE and IE, for more detailed information.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your fellow UPSC aspirants and anyone else interested in learning about these fascinating creatures, India's river dolphins. And if you have any questions or want to explore certain aspects further, leave a comment below. We always love to hear from you.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.